Hello and welcome again to today's virtual seminar where we're going to be discussing careers in project management. My name is Liam. I'm going to be hosting today. I work on the marketing team here at Learning People, and I've been with the company for about 3 years. I originally started with the student care team and moved over to this team about 8 or 9 months ago. I'm joined on the call by 4 of my lovely colleagues. So we have 3 members of our project management enrollment team. So we've got Jordan, Sam and Alex. Thanks for joining, lads. And also we're joined by Rachel, who's in career services based here in Dublin. So I suppose just to give you a bit of an introduction to what we do here at Learning People, because some of you will be at different journeys, your different parts of your journey with ourselves. Some of you may already be speaking with some of our career consultants, so you know a little bit about what we do and who we are. But for those of you who are new to us and are here to get a bit more information about who we are and what we do, I'll just give you a bit of a background. So we are a digital education provider, and we have over 40,000 students worldwide. We've got homes in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland. What we strive to do as a company is help individuals just like yourselves improve their careers and through that improve their lives and their livelihoods. So we help students move into new careers or move upwards in their current careers. So how do we do that? We provide globally leading training content and then in tech and project management. And then we marry that with a very high level of support. So be that from support from your career consultant who you start your journey with, from the in-platform mentors or your student care representative as you work through the course. And then the icing on the cake when you then work with career services with Rachel, for example, to then move into to get you into the right role, a secure role. So it is that high level of support that means we stand out from the rest. And we'll hear a bit more about that as the call goes on today. So as I said, my name is Liam. I'm just going to introduce you to some more of the team here. So I mentioned the first part of that support that we offer is your career consultation. So Sam, if you don't mind, would you maybe just take us through a bit more about what your team do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. So we have a team here of around 18 on the project management team. And really what we're striving to do is to align our students with the right sort of pathway, the right sort of certifications. So that process is effectively that once we have your inquiry, one of the team will reach out to you to be able to understand your motivations, understand everything that's specific to you about why you are looking to move into project management or to upskill in the field. And so we will endeavour to listen, to be able to understand and be able to recommend a pathway as a result, right the way through from the initial inquiry all the way through to the studying and the career service. So our team are here really to support you every step of the way and to provide you with that pathway and that support.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sam. Yeah, and just, I mean, from working in the company for 3 years, I've always been pleasantly surprised about the level of detail that goes into those consultations. It's not about, forcing people to where they don't want to be, or, it's really about figuring out, what career path is best. So, yes, thanks for explaining that in more detail, Sam. We're also joined on the call, as I said, by Rachel, who works in the career services team. So, Rachel, do you mind giving a bit of an introduction to what you guys do on career services?
Yeah, thanks so much, Liam. So with the career services team, our focus, long story short, is to kind of make sure that people coming in doing their project management certifications not only feel, but they become job ready and that they're able to navigate the market and if it's applicable to them to do a career change. So many of our students are looking to make that move into project management. So it's nothing new from our side. And it's a really exciting adventure to see people undertake. We kind of have set up a 3-phase process to bring each student through. And the first phase is just literally making sure that you build as successfully as possible your kind of professional brand as a newly fledged project management professional, or even better, or even still, if it's you're kind of looking to just upgrade your CV and you're already in the space. And that's what we kind of take a deep dive into. So usually at that point, we kind of look to analyze and make sure that we're helping you to research the market as best as possible, look to see what the requirements are, and kind of help you then structure your CV and your LinkedIn profiles. We also do things like looking at cover letters as well, but we basically just make sure that you are coming through and you've tailored your brand as best as possible that fits your own experience at this current point, and now the newly fledged information that you have from your certs, to present yourself in the best possible way going into the market. Because the second phase is literally focusing on exactly that. It's getting into the market. It's kind of taking that new brave step into space. And what's a really key crucial point here is that we focus on, of course, you applying to jobs and helping you support you through that, but also as well looking at networking. So hugely overlooked part. We go into massive detail on that together, but essentially most people miss out on the fact that networking and building good relationships is a huge key factor to your success in the overall job search, be it you're already within the space or you're looking to get into it for the first time. So we take a deep dive in building plans actually that's structured to help you get through this, navigate it in the best way, so your time being spent gets you the results that you want, which is of course interviews and offers. And essentially our third final phase is exactly just focusing on preparing for interviews when they come up. So we do intensive interview calls together, and we also do mock presentation sessions, because most of us are aware that in the process at some point you're going to be asked to present something as a project management professional. So we'll look into that in good detail and just make sure you feel confident and prepared for the day. And as a team, once a month we do workshops together. So we take a deep dive and looking at each of these various phases and kind of doing Q&A questions with students when they come up. So yep, it's ourselves.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rachel. I use the phrase icing on the cake to describe the career services team, because I'm a really big fan of what they do. So I work out in the same office as Rachel does in Dublin, so I get to eavesdrop on their calls with students, and I can hear all the wonderful advice that they're giving. So they really are a credit to the business. And also I get to sit in on those monthly workshops as well, and they are so valuable. So I have a lot of time for the career services team. So thanks very much for explaining that, Rachel. We might move on to some of your questions. So this is a Q&A session. Some of you have kindly left questions when registering for today's event. And if any of you would like to write any questions into the chat or the Q&A, we'll endeavour to answer those as well. So we'll kick off with call it a group of questions from Halima. They're all kind of on the same vibe, so we'll group them together. Halima asks, how easy is it starting a new career in project management? What are the steps to starting a career in project management? And are there any tips for beginners? Does anyone want to jump in on that? Don't all jump at once.
So I think that what's integral to starting a new career is firstly getting the right advice. And that's ultimately what we're here to do. So every conversation that I will have, I mean, I've been here for 4.5 years now, so I've had many conversations in my time, but every single one is different. We cannot exist, we cannot do our role without understanding what is unique about you, what your background is, what your experience is, but also going more into the motivations that you have. Are you doing this for yourself? Are you doing this for progression, be that salary, position? Are you doing this for your family and your well-being? Ultimately, that's all integral to us in being able to do our role. So I think the first thing is really about coming to us, getting that advice and being able to do some research. And I think the commitment, the dedication as well is the next part. I think whenever you're going to be making any sort of change in your life, there's going to need to be dedication on your side. We are always going to meet every student halfway. We're going to put in as much effort for every single student, but making that commitment to yourself to say, right, I am going to make this change. I'm not going to dwell on it anymore. I am going to make that step out, which can sometimes be a bit daunting, is really, really important. And then as a result, getting your certifications, once you've done that, being able to prove what you know on paper, and then getting to the icing on the cake, as we said, with the career service, which is really about once you've got your certifications, once that process has been tailored for you every step of the way in terms of on paper, you then have that tailored advice and guidance about how to apply that to the job market. So I think for my biggest piece of advice for anyone that is looking to get into this space is to ask about it, gain advice, do research, take a step out that sometimes can be a bit daunting, because believe me, can be the most nerve-wracking thing to do initially, but it can be the most rewarding thing to do by far down the line. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
And also just to step in there about sort of how easy is it to get into the career. First we've got to look at the job market. I think if you're going to have a conversation with us, definitely look at job boards and see sort of what's being requested and simply how many roles are out there. But if you look at project management as a profession, it's the second most underskilled role within the UK. It's currently 93,000 roles advertised on online at the moment. So there's a wealth of opportunity. So there's the opportunity to make the most of it. But if you can start thinking about, before we speak, which industry you want to work in, that will help us make a recommendation for the courses. So there is some sort of steps you can make before we speak that will help the consultation.
Fantastic, thanks guys. I really like the point that Sam made about having that dedication. So from my time working on the student care team, I see students at the start of that journey and they're asking, can I actually do this? And a lot of the time my answer is, if you really want to do this, you will do this. And especially for a lot of our entry-level certifications, the main prerequisite is a want and a desire to get this done. And you'll see that those students who have that motivation, they're going to be the ones to succeed. I know it seems obvious to say, but if you really want something, you will get there. So I like that point about dedication. Moving on, Adebayo asks, is the course only online or is there in-person or classroom learning? So I can field that one. So all of our training content is online. Most of it is self-paced. I suppose sometimes when you think of online learning, you think if you're plonked there in front of a video, but do know that our content is, a lot of it is interactive, and there's, different kinds of resources you can use. So be it video content, or ebooks, or interacting with the mentors when you do have questions. There isn't any in-person learning, but Adebayo mentions classroom learning. So some of our training courses do have live classroom elements to them, where you're actually sitting down with other students online through a Zoom call, and you've got an expert there to give you a class and also to answer your questions. So there is that chance to have that back and forth. This might be one for Rachel. Joy asks, I currently work in retail and would like to cross over into the industry. Do we have any advice for her?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's a question they get from so many students. It's going kind of back to what Alex and Sam were saying, that idea of project management being such a versatile industry, like a kind of profession to get into, that what you'd want to be doing, like focusing on moving from retail to project, is to do your certs, of course, right? Because that's going to be your entry point. But also as well, like considering and always reminding yourself of your transferable skills, your soft skills. Like retail, everyone knows it's a really demanding job, right? You have to be very time management, like time focused oriented. Organization is key, but also communication. And all of these skills are fundamentally like core to project management. You're not, you're like, if you have those skills in your arsenal, it doesn't matter how how kind of long it will take you to get there. Just keeping up with your studies, getting your exam done, and then focusing on speaking with one of like myself or one of my colleagues in the career services team. We can help just make sure that your CV and your LinkedIn are demonstrating those skills that you would have gained through your experience. And that's where you ultimately need to start, and kind of recognizing, are there any areas within retail or any kind of projects that you'd have done within that space that you can again further highlight. But no, absolutely, there's so many places to start, but the main point is just to always remember it all like aligns together. So you've got a lot of things going for you if you're coming from retail as a sector.
think as well with that, speak to your employer. If you've enrolled in the courses and you're getting those completed, speak to your line manager and say, is there any kind of opportunity for me to actually manage a project or even just be involved? We had a webinar, I think it was like a year or so ago, with a guy called Rory who worked in Morrison's, and he's gone up through the ranks incredibly well, and he's now managing projects himself within Morrison's, and he was working as a store assistant. So if you kind of make them aware that's what you want to do, that's the direction you go into, there may be opportunities to get involved or have a bit of exposure that you didn't think was possible.
Great, thanks guys. So we have two kind of similar questions. So first of all, Rosanna asks, what are the right steps to start from zero qualifications in project management, let's say with an MVQ level 3 of business and administration done over 10 years ago and zero professional experience? And then kind of similar question, Poppy asks, what's the best way to get into project management if you've come from a customer service and administration background? So we may be repeating ourselves with these kind of answers because it's a little bit similar to the last, but again, we're probably looking at that whole transferable skills piece, right?
Yeah, I think for most people, there is a course that's suitable. You know, even if you're brand new to project management, you've never done anything like this before, the key thing is to learn the skills required to do the job well. And that's ultimately what employers want to see. They want to see you're serious about the career. You've taken steps to improve your knowledge in those sort of key areas. So I think you just get in touch, you know, have a conversation. I think that doing it online is quite difficult. There's so many different options. It can get quite confusing. And that's ultimately what we're here for, to kind of field questions and recommend the most relevant qualifications for anybody from any sector with any level of experience. You know, career changing happens all the time. And with the support of Rachel and the team, it makes it much, much easier than trying to do that on your own, which can be very daunting, you know, if you're on your own. But yeah, that's why we have those support networks there. You know, we tailor advice for the individual rather than a one size fits all, because that just doesn't work. So yeah, there's a range of different courses dependent on the industry that you want to move into, but also, as Al said, you know, you are more than able to kind of progress within the same industry and use the experience that you've got in a slightly different role to your benefit, you know. So I think the key thing is just to get in touch and have a conversation around, you know, what's best for you, and we can tailor the advice that we give for you as an individual.
Yeah, fantastic. So I mean, like the last few questions have been, here's where I'm coming from, you know, how do I move forward? So like, am I right in saying in that like a lot of the conversation that you guys have is trying to determine where they want to go or where they might want to go in the future, and then from that then you can recommend the pathway for them, right?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It's a case of looking at the existing role, what skill sets they would have got that are transferable, like we keep talking about. Yeah. And then also, if they know which industry they want to go into, something like IT, if you've got a real desire to work there, you will need different qualifications. If you want to work in the public sector, there's another line of qualifications that are more suitable. But then naturally, not every career changer would know where they want to work. So we do have options that are going to give you an exposure across multiple industries and will just get you experience and just get you into that working environment. And then often we had Megan last month. Once you've gone through that process, once you've got a year or two of experience, you're then free to move across different industries. She went from healthcare to engineering. So project-based work, you're managing projects. You don't need to be an expert on that particular industry. You work with experts that will guide you and give you, you know, the technical advice. So you're there to manage the project. So it offers that flexibility. So yeah, it's a big part of what we'll look at. And we'll also look at what you're looking to gain from the move. Some people may want to work at home. Some people may want to travel internationally. That will push us down a different route with which sort of industry and qualification would be more suitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow on from what you were saying, Alex, as well, I think that, you know, one of the elements that often can be missed when looking at career changes is that we'll have people that will want to get into sectors which are growing, you know, which have a lot of opportunity. The thing that's unique about this industry is it's not only is it transferable, but it's in, you know, the top 3 most in demand professions globally. You know, every organization needs project management skills. Even if initially you went in as an operations manager, managing projects, working towards a PM role, you're still going to have the skills that every employer is going to want to see from you. So I think that's really important to say, is that, you know, there is a huge amount of transferable skills, but we will endeavor to be able to make sure that we fit your desires, because ultimately the qualifications are a byproduct of why you're looking to do this. You do the qualifications to be able to prove your knowledge, but what leads you down this path is the advice, but also about what you want. And we're here to listen and to guide you through that.
Great example. Sorry to jump in again. I'm seeing in the chat loads about Prince 2, and we get that a lot, don't we? Where someone's saying, oh, Prince 2, and that's great because it is widely recognized. But that's a great example where if you've got a desire to work in one industry, just because you see Prince 2 everywhere, that's not always the best option. So that's why the conversation is so important, because if you do that qualification, then look at a certain industry and it's not right, then you've wasted your time and money. So it's as much about tailoring that view as possible.
Anything else, Alex? I'm only joking. Right, question. Are we guaranteed a job on completion of the exam? That's one we seem to get a good bit, so I'll try and answer that one. The short answer is no. A lot of providers out there will offer a job guarantee, but often what you'll find is there is a list of terms and conditions and asterisks coming off the page to satisfy that guarantee. What you might also find is that you're actually being pushed into a job that's not really right for you, just to satisfy that job guarantee. I often hear Rachel and her colleagues mention right job for the right person, and we do firmly believe that as an organization. We don't want to just push someone into a job just to get a stat. Now, what we will say is, and what we'll brag about on behalf of the Career Services team, we do have a 97% employment success rate on completion of the 3 phases that Rachel mentioned. So when I was on the student care team, I always used to say, you need to make sure you fully engage with the Career Services team to get the most out of your experience. So of students who complete the 3 phases of Career Services, 97% of them are getting employed in a role of their choice and in the field that they want. So not a job guarantee, but as close as you're going to get while getting people into the jobs they actually want.
Yeah, and I was just going to say on that, Liam, that it's like one of the main things I would say to students at that point is like it's so important, like these skills that we're like, you know, bringing each student through during the phases. There's skills that you're going to have for life. So it may seem at the start that being promised a job that, as you rightly said, is probably like more than likely not going to be the ideal fit for the person. It's much more advantageous to be spending your time initially just, you know, gathering a sense of like, how do I navigate this? Like, how do I do things like my CV? How do I network with people? Because then you'll see that like 1-2 years down the line, as Alex was saying, you start to progress yourself, you get more projects and you're building yourself up. All of that is going to be more or less, it'll feel like effortless. You'll have those skills, you'll understand this is exactly what I should be doing when it comes to the industry. So while it may seem like it's not a guaranteed job, like, you know, what's the use in that? There's actually so much more beneficial use in doing it this structured way and building up those skills than kind of going into something forced into it and it not being the right step. That's always what I say to students. And then they'll understand at the end when they do have their job and they're like, oh, you're right. I managed to get something that's like 1,000,000 times like better and like actually suits myself than anything else. And it's really satisfying to see that happening for students in PM.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Like I said, I keep harping back to my time on student care, but like I did get to see students coming all the way through that whole process, and it was beyond fulfilling to see students that I'd done their initial orientation with, to going all the way through and saying I just got X, Y, and Z job, and you know, it's just fantastic to see. So yeah, that's great.
I think also it's important to mention that generally speaking, your first job will sometimes dictate your second job. And if you are pushed into an area that isn't actually aligned to what you want to do further down the line, taking a job just for guarantee's sake can actually impact you in a negative way. Although you think you get an experience, sometimes it's not always beneficial. Whereas we have a very tailored approach to what you want out of this. You know, a career change, it's a big decision for most people. You know, it's not something you're going to do lightly. And you want to make sure that you're putting yourself on the best pathway through your career 5-10 years down the line, and having experience in the area that actually interests you and motivates you is one of the key things that's I would say probably the most important thing to do as your first step into the industry.
So well said, Jordan.
He's been listening. Great, thanks, guys. Just conscious of time, so we'll just get one or two more questions in. If we get stuck with the training, is there someone to help? Yes, absolutely. We have in-platform mentors. So you're not just going to be given the training content and then thrown off on your own. That there is a chance to ask questions, and you should be asking questions to make sure you're getting everything. So yes, indeed, there is someone to help you there. Then finally, how long will it take on average to complete the course? It's too hard to say, because there's so many different pathways that you can go. And that's, again, that's tied into the conversation you have with one of the guys about what you want to take on. What we would stress is that they can be completed around a full-time job or around other commitments like family commitments. These are part-time courses. So, if you've got all the time in the world, you'll get through them in no time. But if you've only got, a few hours a week, you're going to be getting them done over maybe 6-9 months. But it all depends on what you're doing. So it's a bit of a difficult question to answer even. We are just going to wrap up. So I'm just going to finish up with asking Sam if there's anyone out there who's thinking about enrolling and has joined the call today to try and get a bit more information about what that might look like. Can you give them a bit of advice, please?
Speak to us. I think that's the most simple way to put it. When you inquire with us, when you get in touch, we will be there to help you. You'll be assigned to one of the members of the team. And these are people that are all incredibly experienced at being able to work with all different types of people, all different experience levels, all different industry backgrounds. So the most important thing I would say is that, look, we're going to be here to listen to everything from your career background to your motivations. And we're incredibly empathetic with the process, because we know what it takes to get in there. We know what it takes from day one through to completing your courses. Unfortunately, we have an amazing team around us to be able to know and have that foresight. So we'll be happy to talk you through that. So please do get in touch, ask all the questions, be honest about what you're looking for. The more honest you are, the more open you are with us, the more we can help you. I think that's the most important thing.
Fantastic stuff, guys. So thank you everyone again for joining the call today. We hope you found it informative. The recording of the session will be sent out to everyone who registered. So don't worry if you miss anything, or if you just want to watch back at it again, please do just check out, look out for it in your emails. Thank you very much to Sam, Jordan, Alex, and Rachel for joining us today, and also to my colleague Sophie in the background. So do get in touch with us if you would like to progress in your career in project management. And thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.